Hey guys, so you are listening to the Elevation Podcast. I am Lynee Monae, a social media influencer and personality, and I am here with my friend and co-host.
I'm Gregory, licensed clinical professional counselor. Today we are really excited to welcome you guys into Elevation. We have our very first guest on,
Woo!
Mr. James Oxley, Miss Malika Jackson. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you.
These two are pillars in our community. We're here in Prince George's County, Maryland. I'm going to let both of them just tell you a little bit about themselves, what they do, a little bit about who they are. Then we'll segue into the reason that brought us together today.
Absolutely.
Me first? Okay. Well, I am Malika Jackson. I'm team leader of the Jackson Group. And I do real estate here in the DMV. I've been doing it for 18 years. And I specialize in working with the creative community.
Nice.
So anybody in entertainment. I have a lot of singers, go-go band members, actors. I have a writer that just closed. Anyone in the creative community. I love that community.
Nice.
And I'm just here in support of everything you're doing. I think it's really powerful. And, I'm glad to just be able to be here and support.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yes.
Well, I'm James Oxley, and I'm from the DMV area. Well, born and raised in Washington, D.C., Washingtonian. Moved to Maryland in 1998. I'm also an actor, philanthropist, pastor, retired military, realtor, child of God,
Amen.
and I keep going on.
Yes, I love that.
I told y'all they do it all and do it all very well. We had the pleasure of meeting them just about 3 weeks ago. The state's attorney did a press conference here in our Metalworks offices, focusing on domestic violence and expanding the definition of domestic violence to not just being intimate partner violence, but to include family violence, which is why we're here today. We were just taken, we were really compelled by Mr. Oxley's story, and by God's grace, we were able to connect with him after
So
he told the
thankful.
story.
Yes.
Lynee and I were saying, who can we have on our podcast? Because this month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and they were outside of our office. We connected, and here they are.
Yes.
So thank you again for
Yes.
coming,
Thank
guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, wherever you guys want to start with just telling us what brings you here and a little bit about, a lot, please, as much as you can,
Right.
about what brought you to the press conference a few weeks ago. And,
Well, first of all, I got on the wrong colors.
No.
Oh,
yeah. Sorry about that.
This is her
I was
idea. I
like,
bought
oh
this
God,
for
they both
this.
still have purple and
Sorry
I
about
don't.
that.
No
But anyway,
problem.
it's never wrong. But yes,
Right.
purple is an identification to mark domestic violence. And in my situation, I was with my former wife for 27 years. We met in D.C. and we were together for 3 years, and then we got married. So it was a total 27 years together that we were together. And in 97, we got married. 98, we met in 94, got married in 97. 98, we moved to Prince George's County. And we bought our first brand new home that was built from the ground up. It wasn't our spec. It was someone else's spec because we went to look at another one, and it didn't have what we wanted in it. So the Lord said, keep driving. And this was in Upper Marlboro. And we was going down Williard Road, and they still had horses and cows.
Wow.
And it was like, where are we?
Right.
Because I'm from D.C.
Right.
Like,
We're in the boonies.
where are we? And we seen this brand new development ahead of us on Rosaryville Road. And we went over there, and there was 3 homes that was up. And we went and talked to the people. And they said, well, somebody's contract fell through. And it was everything that we wanted in it. It was actually much larger. And we moved in. And in 2001, so I had to go back. I had a son, James III. And I said I would never do that again because his mother and I didn't get married. So I said I would never do that again. So when 2001, I waited 8 years with my wife, close to 8 years with my former wife, to have another child. So 2001, we had our son. Then 2002, we had a son. And 2005, I decided I want to join the military. Well, I went to join the military when I was 17, but I was running the streets. I was engaged when I was 15. So I was always a relationship person. I always
Yeah.
wanted to be with. I've never looked at women where they were a piece of meat. I always looked at them as queens or children of God.
Did y'all hear that? I don't mean to interrupt you, but are you listening? Because that's very important. Okay, we are missing that in this day and age.
It is.
Like,
And
we're
it's
just
so
missing
sad,
it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's sad because our women are, God God first gave man the ability to bring forth a woman. And then after that, the woman started bringing forth life. That's how we got here. That's how all of us got here. Because they're the creator and the reproduction of what God had created.
Absolutely.
So that's why I honor them, because what people don't understand is, in my marriage, I said, when we got in arguments, I said, I will frustrate the God that's in her. I can't keep frustrating the God that's in her. I've never hit my wife. I never hit anyone, I was getting engaged when I was 15.
Yeah.
And then I met my son's mother in 92, and then my wife in 94. So I was always in a relationship.
Right.
And we flourished. We build. I mean, I was hood. I was everything in DC. I was doing everything. I was in the wilderness experience trying to figure this life out.
Yeah.
Right.
Because my mother was 15 when she was pregnant with me. My father was 17. She had me when she was 16. He was 18. So I was born to two teenage parents. However, their parents were both middle class and went to war. I mean, they had homes all over DC, but my father and mother, they didn't have the best ability to take care of us like we should, right? So there was no playbook.
Yeah.
So once I got to a certain age, I was just out there trying to figure this world out. And, that's why I ran into the wilderness experience. So when I did get married and we started having children, I didn't want them to go through the life that I went through, So I got in the military, went to college. I got my MBA in real estate development. I got that afterward, but we both have high school diplomas, and then we both got our degrees, our bachelor's degree. And I want to give her name because I want to honor this moment for Taledia
Yes, please
J.
do.
Oxley and Asa Nathan Oxley.
Yes.
Beautiful woman, intelligent. I mean, kept me in check. You know what I'm saying? And that's what the Bible says. They bring the women to our life to be a helpmate. The man wasn't created for the woman, but the woman was created for the man. We need our women as a helpmate, as a team, and to bring us, to keep us together.
Yeah.
Because we men, we just do some foolish, stupid stuff. And our women, God can speak to them and bring us back into that alignment. Right. And that's what she did. She brought our family to alignment. She was highly educated, beautiful melanated queen, about family life. I know you have some questions. I don't want to keep
keep going. Yeah.
And we just started building a life, and we had our before we moved and bought our second home, we bought a big. She was like, I joined the military. I was like, let's go. Let's find another house. We rented out our townhouse. We bought our second family home just down the street in Clinton. It was a model, brand new community. It was a model, and at the time it was our three children. Well, three, because Asa was born in 2013 at the new house. We moved there in 2011, and then we had our daughter in 2019. However, we built up this life. We worked, church going. Everywhere we went, we traveled, took them to places that I've never been to, Turks and Caicos, the Disney cruise. I mean, we everywhere. Yeah. And they had to do a report for school on the trips and the travels that they went through. And we were just living, and we go to church, and wherever we went, travel, people like, your kids are so well-mannered, and we go to church. I was like, y'all so beautiful as a family. And then I'm going to fast forward it. Our then 15-year-old son, who the crux of this situation happened, he was getting in trouble since he was in elementary. He was a cute little guy with the big eyes, nice curly hair, light skin. And oftentimes, a lot of times, the girls would hit him on the butt, do certain things, and he would respond, and he would get in trouble. And then when we go to school and find out, it was actually somebody else who started. So he was going through this for a while, and then he got in high school, and then he got a growth spurt. When he was in high school, some of his friends got into an altercation, and then this big, and you can go watch the tape. He was, the guy hit him, or the guy pushed him, hit him, and then he jumped up and hit the guy. But one thing they showed, one of the guys had a gun
Wow.
in his sweat thing
Wow.
that was hidden under. So he was dealing with this battle, trying to make it in high school with this generation. Then he from our neighborhood. So in our neighborhood in Clinton, our community is a new community. So it's the homes are very high, very expensive.
Stately.
Yeah.
But on the outside, it's the old community, and some of the people that he encountered wasn't living their best life. To say, came out of the environment that I came out, and I didn't want him to be in that environment.
Yeah.
However, he still ended up getting into that environment, and we didn't know. We allowed him to. My kids wanted for nothing; they had everything, and that's kind of the thing. The crux of this situation is that when kids don't have certain things, they gravitate to other kids and they go out to drugs, carjacking, things like that.
Yeah.
Then when you do have the kids that have everything, they feel a sense of entitlement, but they want to go and live that type of life.
Right.
And
But
that's so interesting because I feel like we spoke about this maybe in private. I don't know if we said it on a podcast, but we were trying to figure out what is it about that bad boy or bad girl lifestyle that's praised so much when you're like a teenager. Like you want to be, you want to date the drug dealer, you want to date the guy with all the money that's out in the streets, and then, with guys, it's like they want to be out in the streets. Even if they don't come from that, they want to be perceived as someone who comes from the struggle. Like the struggle is glorified.
Right.
But when you get older and you pay attention to it and you look around and you choose that lifestyle, nothing good really comes from it.
Right.
You kind of find yourself in this cycle, like on a hamster wheel of trying to get out, but you just can't because now you're too far in it, even though that's not the lifestyle that you were brought up in. So we were talking about that.
I heard it was some type of guilt that some kids have when they have and then others don't have. And so that could be something that attracts them to try to, fit in. I know kids who ask their parents to drop them off a block up the road because dad drives the Benz, right? Because they don't want the kids to know because they'll get bullied. So I don't know, it could have been something like that. But
and what you both were speaking on, they want street cred.
Street
cred.
That's what they want.
Right.
They want street cred.
Street cred.
And I came from that lifestyle, and I'm like, you don't want that,
right?
Because you're not built for it.
So true. And like the question is, like, do nice guys really finish last?
We had that conversation. She was always somewhere. We had that conversation about nice guys. And nice guys do. Because the thing is, we already have values and we have an insight and we have a heart. And we're not going to downgrade that or give it up for anybody.
Yeah.
So I don't care how much you trample over me or think you're getting over me,
Right.
but the God that I serve
Amen.
would not allow you to do that because He's going to continue to bless me as you fall down. So I don't worry about that.
Right.
And I'm gonna continue being who Oxley is.
Absolutely.
And people gonna see me. They gonna be like, I even introduced when we started talking, wasn't even dating, just friends. I would take her around my friends' family. I'm like, tell her about me. She's like, well, they only gonna tell you the part that they want to tell you, but they all say what they all say.
What they say on this podcast.
Are you
like,
sure?
well, he got a heart.
Well, this is the process of getting to know James Oxley. So yes, they would all say the same thing. They say he's a man of God. He's a fierce protector, but don't get him wrong. They said he was like what do you call the person in the neighborhood that beats up all the bad guys? And like Robin Hood or something.
Okay.
So that's what he would do. So he would go get people who were doing wrong.
Yeah.
But then he would make sure they knew not to do that again, and then he'd pray over them.
Wow. Get them together and then send a prayer out.
Wow.
Yes, he'd
I
pray
love
over
that.
them, and then they knew not to cross that line again. But they would say stuff like that.
But I always
Wow.
had a heart for people. You know what I'm saying? And no matter what. And if I fight you, I'm hurting. Because I didn't mean to hurt you.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't fight family. I couldn't fight friends. And I'm like, let's not do this because I know what I'm going to do to you. And when I beat you up, I'm like, oh, that hurts.
Now I really feel bad about
Right,
me.
'cause my cousin, black
Sometimes
and
it has
was
to be
little, then we
done.
got bigger. I beat him up.
Yeah.
Black both his eyes. But it wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't. But it hurt me. You know what I'm saying? It hurt me. But they know what kind of person I am. You know what I'm saying? I'm a staunch defender of me because it's just me when I was born. I didn't have no other older brothers or sisters or anybody I can run to.
Right.
I
It
can
was
only
just
run to
you.
God. And my mom said, I can remember when I moved to my neighborhood, my mom said the neighborhood bullies tried to come up and I ran through the back door, and we just knew in this neighborhood. My mother was 5 feet. She said, "If you don't go out there and confront them, I'm gonna beat you." I was like,
Oh wow.
Let's do it.
Super old
Start
school.
beating
Wow.
them. I defended them. I
Yeah.
ain't want no
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, you my age. We
Right.
so I went out there and I earned my respect.
Yeah.
I earned my respect. So,
And that said, that's something you didn't want.
I
for
did
your
want for my
children.
children.
Yeah.
Right.
And
yeah.
I defended them from that and protected them from that. And yet I gave them some story. And then, like I said, my former wife, we were together for 27 years. So she's seen me in that environment. You know what I'm saying? Some of her family members came from that environment. So she knew, and a lot of times, my wife would call them suburbanites. You trying to be gangster. She said the only gangster in this house is your dad. And a gangster don't mean half that you got to go out here and kill, shoot people, all that. Doesn't really have to mean that. It can mean you survived what you went through.
Yeah.
You was willing enough, like God, to stand up and confront your enemies and be gangster for it because you didn't have to back down. Because that's what they look at. Sometimes, the gangster is the one who don't back down. He go out and he got to prove a point. But my point is that I'm not backing down from anyone because my grandmother, who was a matriarch, casting her rest her soul in peace, I did her eulogy. She used to tell me, don't fear anybody that's walking upright. When you talking to people, you look them in their eyes. And I always remember that, So to go back. Yes, that's what I'm saying. So to go into that, we protected our kids from you.
Butterflies.
See, that's the spirit of the Lord.
It's me.
She's a butterfly person.
They do all kind of
And
things
you
around
butterfly
me.
too.
Yes,
Oh, you are
and I
too?
didn't even
Oh,
know
that's
that they
right.
had
Butterfly.
added these. Like we told them nothing about butterflies,
why didn't I
and
know
they
that?
added them.
I guess
Yeah,
with 2 butterfly people. This
yeah, that's
is a lot
amazing.
of energy.
Wow.
Sorry.
So to just to fast forward it, he wanted to get with the bad kids, and we would tell him the bad kids or these kids not bad, but the children that are doing mischief want your life. They want your lifestyle. They want to be in this big house. They want to have electric food. All the things that when I was a kid would get turned off, and mayonnaise sandwiches and hot sauce sandwiches when I was growing up. They want a life when you go in the refrigerator, you got a full
food.
pantry full of food and things of that nature. And yet he chose their life, but some things happened. We had to call the police, and we let him join Frederick Douglass football team, and we let him get a job. He didn't have to. And then one day we went to pick him up from work, and I could smell marijuana on him. So
And he's living in your house at the time
Yes.
with your wife. Okay, and the rest of
yeah, so he was living with us, and our oldest son had just joined the Air Force.
Okay.
So it was other 4 kids that was at home, and he would when he got in the car, I said, "You smell like marijuana." He said, "No, I was in the car sitting with my friend. He was smoking." I said, "Boy, I come from the streets.
Yeah.
I'm looking at your face." So I get home and I share this information with my wife. I said, "I think Israel's smoking." So to put it, the kid was he and my wife were like this. They were real tight. Like she would take him shopping and go out because she was tired of guys hitting on her, men hitting on her. So she would take him, and I would be home with the other kids or working or whatever. And they were really tight. So when it happened, she grabbed his iPad, grabbed his phone, and started searching through everything. I mean, he was even on Chop Jr. We had him on Chop Jr. He cooked rattle. He cooked the best food, but he didn't listen. I called him. I don't want to say his name, but he's 18. But I don't want to say his name. But I say he does too much. Like he does too much. And he was on Chop Jr. and everything. And when she found out, went through his iPad, went through his phone. He was living a double life. Wow. He would go to school. We found out he was going to school in the neighborhood, get smoking weed and doing all kinds of things. He was taking what's some things for the allergy, the little pink things?
The Benadryl.
Benadryl.
Yeah.
So if you take too many Benadryls, you hallucinate.
Wow.
So he would hallucinate, and I went and put up the YouTube and show what kids look like when they hallucinate. Her cousin was a correction officer in a youth facility. We had him go in there. We had him go out past. We tried to find help for him when we started finding out all these things. And then I looked at the countenance on his face, and I can remember telling him, I said, I don't trust him anymore. I said, something's wrong. I don't trust him anymore. So he went to live with her mother, not live with her mother, but he went to stay with her mother, who lives out here in Upper Marlboro, and her mother would take her to school in the morning, and I would go pick him up. So they didn't have the interaction on the bus, getting high and things like that. So we was
Really
trying
just
to
trying
to intervene. Yeah.
intervene, cut it off, and then I'll pick him up. He would come home to the house, and we didn't allow him to go to certain parts in his room anymore. He didn't have that free will anymore. So he was like, I gotta go upstairs, get this and that. And then when she come down, my wife was like, strip search. And we would find things, stolen things, drugs, all kinds of stuff. And she has a clearance. Her mom had a clearance. I'm in the military. Right. And she was like, you can jeopardize and ruin our lives,
Yeah.
Yep.
And he just didn't understand it. So she would strip search him, take him. She would go back with her mother and then come back and do it all over again. So then in November, my wife wanted my oldest son to come, for Thanksgiving.
Right.
So he had, he was in the Air Force. So he came home 2 weeks before so we can celebrate. And then he left and went back. And then she wanted to come back for December. Then this time the snow came, and then they had COVID in the school. So now he's at home.
He's home.
So he's not traveling. He's not.
Yeah.
Then on fast forward to January 5th, my wife was sick. She kept coughing and things like that. So we took her to Southern Maryland Hospital, and they kept her overnight. They did all this, tests and everything like that. And, we was communicating throughout the day. Right. And I can remember a text she said, no, but none of the other kids checked on me. She said, he called and he wanted to know what time I'm coming home. She said, that was nice. That's how she was thinking.
Right, and she's
concerned.
At the hospital, so she's thinking he's concerned.
Yeah, because he was also a chef. And he would cook and things like that. So, but this time we were fasting. So I would prepare vegan meals and things of that nature. So I went to pick her up on the 5th. I picked up my other son from his job, and we came home. She went upstairs to take a shower, get ready, because she'd been in the hospital all night. And I asked my other kids to go and fix the clean, so I can go fix the prepare the vegan meals and stuff.
Right.
So they did that. She came back down and she sat in a big chair, and the other one was upstairs. My 2-year-old daughter at the time was on the floor on a little Minnie Mouse couch. My 8-year-old, I'm here. My 8-year-old's down on a chair. Couple of chairs down from me, and I'm on my computer. Then my wife got up and touched me on the head, went to the bathroom. She touched me on the head, said best friend. Went to the bathroom. So in my house, you have the staircase, and you can come down to the front, which is the front entrance. You can go around to the right side or to the left side. There's the bathroom in my business office. Then it's the family room, living room. And to the other side, go straight down, it's the butler's pantry. You can come around that way. So she went to the bathroom, came back, sat down, and I'm on my computer, and my son, Asa, I can say his name because he's gone. I'm going to tribute him. Asa was on his iPad, and we have a television right there, and all I can hear was like a gun sound. I was like, dang, that TV awfully loud. So I'm looking, I went to grab the remote control, and I see my wife sit up, and I hear it again, and I see her fall back, and I look, and I see a silhouette over it. I see a person. I'm like, by the television. I'm like, and then he turned real quick, and he shoots my 8-year-old son twice. Pow, pow. And I'm looking. I'm like, that's my son. And I just jumped up. I just jumped up, went at him. He had the gun at me point blank, fired it twice. Pow, pow, point blank. And it hit me here, tore through my bone, my carpal tunnel, and it hit me. Oh, I got my thing on me. My side arm on me. And he struck, and it hit me here.
Oh, wow.
So it hit me there and there. Yeah. And I but what's ironic is that I didn't know I was shot.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't know I was shot at the time. All I could see was him. He dropped the gun, he ran. Like I said, I just described it where he came around. He ran around that way, and I ran around the other way. And I met him at the door, and I was fighting with him, and I grabbed him, and I tried to slam him, because I, trying to get in my head what just happened.
Yeah.
And get to understand what just happened. And I went to grab him with this one. I was like, I couldn't. I was like, oh, he must have shot me. That's what I'm saying in my head. I'm like, he must have shot me. So I'm getting a little dizzy, and my other son was upstairs. He hadn't come down at that time. And the Lord said, let him go. Let him go. I said, I let him go. And he ran out the back door. I went and shut the back door. I'm on the phone with the paramedics, and I looked, and where the bullet wound was in my wife, I knew she was, she was gone. And where my son was, I knew he was gone.
So sorry.
But he was gone. So he went out the back door, fled, and at that time, the police they came, and the paramedics came, and one of the officers who we called before on him responded, and he knew exactly what was going on. So he ran upstairs looking for him. I said, no, he's gone. I said, he ran out the door. So he knew exactly, because he had a conversation with him. He was like, look, I got a 6-year-old son. And he looked and he said, man, I'm in this big house. You got all of this. And you want where I came and got you from? The house where the parents and the grandparents are smoking drugs with the kids in the house. They had riffraff people coming in and out. And it was like around the corner from us. And he said, you want that lifestyle, and you want to give up this lifestyle?
Right.
So he knew exactly what had happened.
Yeah.
So then they had taken me into the living room. To my dining room, because they didn't want to see
I want you to see
what they was trying to perform life-saving measures, which I knew already that. And here's the ironic thing about it. I'm not saying ironic. Here's the thing that the graceful thing, and I didn't open with this, and I should have opened with this, that I give God all the glory and honor. I give the Holy Spirit and my Lord and Savior, and I usually open with that. And I had a relationship, and Jeremiah 1:5, he said, I knew you when you was in your mother's belly, and I called you and ordained you a prophet to the nations, right? And at that moment, when everything went down, it's like a peace that surpassed all understanding. I wasn't frantic. I wasn't scared. It was just a calm peace that came over me that I just can't, to this moment. I have to contribute to God.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And the only one was pissing me off, if I can say that, was the 911. She kept asking me the same questions over and I said, lady, I told you over and over who did it and whatever. I said, just gets in my ear. So, but other than that, I looked and I was like, it's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
They're gone, they transitioned, they're not here. So what do I do?
It's like a surrender almost.
To God.
Right.
I'm not going to surrender to the issue that happened.
Yeah.
Because that's what Satan wanted me to do, to fall, because he know the power that God has on my life. So he wanted me to crash and be like, oh, I'll give up, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do it. I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I got other people that's depending on me, and I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, they flew me out of there. They took me to Southern Maryland, and they took me to the new hospital in Lanham, Capital, Upper Marlboro, the Regency Hospital. And while I was on the gurney, the detectives were there. They were there. I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
And then next thing I know, I'm on the phone with Sierra Fox from Fox 5.
Yeah.
Asking me about asking me. And I said, I love him and I forgive him.
Right after, you're still
I'm
getting
on a
work
gurney.
done.
I'm on a gurney.
Wow.
Because at that moment, God said to me, how many times have we, who he created, have done so much that he could have taken us out at any moment and not forgiven us?
Right.
He said, but I've forgiven you for everything that you've done for such a time as this.
That is so powerful.
It really
That is so powerful.
Yeah.
Wow.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. No,
Because when I think about God and his power and everything that he has done, I got hit on a motorcycle. My hand opened.
Yeah.
They said I would never use it again. 2007, I was hit by a roadside bomb in Iraq. I survived that. And it's not, I'll take it. It's not tears of pain and sorrow. It's tears of joy.
Yeah.
The power in the creation of God.
Right.
That people don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a term that I heard not too long ago, something called supreme grace, which it comes from God. And that's what I'm getting from you, to be able to, in that moment, use the words and feel forgiveness in that moment while you yourself, you don't know what your outcome is going to be. God bless you.
God bless you.
I mean, yeah.
This is a true testimony.
Yeah.
Like, that's a true testimony. You just talking about going through something so tragic that many of us couldn't even imagine, and saying in that moment you felt a peace, a calmness come over you that you can't even explain, because a lot of us would have been hysterical.
It's the spirit. It's
Yeah.
the spirit of God. And I keep telling people, get a relationship.
Absolutely.
I am not a religious person. I grew up in church all my life. And I ran these streets. And I did all kinds of foolishness out here. God said, those who worship me must worship me in spirit and in truth. Not in your religion, not in what church you go to, not in who you serve, except for him. You know, and I stand on that. And nobody can turn me from that.
Amen. Yeah.
And he's been blessed me ever since. And in that, he said, you have to tell the story to help and save somebody else.
Yes.
So that's why I'm very transparent. You can ask pretty much anything about my life. One of my friends who transitioned, we was about to celebrate 50 years. There's 3 of us as friends. And I will always give a testimony, tell everything. Yep, I did this. Yep, I sure did. I sold this. I did that.
Right.
And he said, yeah, it's good for the reputation, but bad for the, good for the reputation, but bad for, good for the soul, but bad for the reputation. I said, whose reputation? I said, I get glory to God.
Yeah.
So whatever he brought me out of, that's who's going to get the glory out of it.
1,000%.
Exactly.
If I was a drug dealer and he brought me out, that's who's
And
going to
that's
get the
what
glory.
it was. And all those
If I-
yeah, go ahead.
ahead.
I'm
No,
sorry.
go ahead.
I was gonna say all those experiences have made you who you are today. Right? Yeah.
A very forgiving, loving person. Like, I give everything away. She'll tell you.
Everything.
But prior to her,
All the time.
all the time.
my wife would say, if you hit the lottery, I got to take the check because you're going to get it all away.
But he's figured something out. And a lot of people, once you figure out that giving spirit, it doesn't do anything but open more doors.
Yes.
And people always ask, like, oh, how does he have this or how does he have that? Because they see he's very successful and comfortable.
Yeah.
And things just seem to always
They happen
flow.
for him.
Yeah.
Like he always finds a way to get that very first class seat. Always finds a way to get the first seat at the concert or
Gotcha.
whatever it is. Like
Yeah.
the very
Yeah.
first parking space. Like
Wow.
I've been long enough where I've seen these little blessings pop up, but it's because he gives in overflow. In overflow. And one of my good brothers that I grew up with years ago, he told me that he was like, once you start giving, and I don't know, he's, from what I understand, you've always kind of been that way. But for me, it took a minute. I think I was about 35.
Sound like me.
I'm still working.
All my life.
Yeah. I mean, I was a young mom, so I was, giving. But when you're in the spirit of giving,
Yeah.
it's different.
Giving,
different.
expecting nothing in return.
Right.
That's what I
Just
told
giving,
him.
giving.
That's it.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, can I
incredible.
just say thank you for sharing? Like, thank you so much for sharing your story. And putting it on our platform. You could have been on any platform, but you decided to be here, and I'm so thankful.
Absolutely.
I do want to ask you, I know we spoke about, you still pushing through and things like that, but for the audience, resilience and really taking the steps to move forward. What did that look like?
So, like I share with people, this is like a movie that plays in my head. Just like when I got hit by the roadside bomb in Iraq. This is a movie that plays in my head every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every moment, every month, every year. That plays in my head, seeing this happen over and over again. So I can't get rid of it. So what do? I'm not going to drink it away.
Right.
I'm not going to drug it away. I'm not going to sex it. Because God is my source. So with the spirit, and of course, I had to go through therapy when I was hit by roadside bomb and other places. So I dealt with therapists. And they give you tools how to manage. And one of the big things that I've learned in therapy is, how do you cope with it? The coping mechanism. If you can have a coping mechanism to help you deal with it, and for me, that's God. That's the Spirit of God. For others, it may be something else, like a friend they can really trust, a pastor, somebody they can really trust, or a therapist.
Right.
But to help them cope with it. For me, it was God. That was the tool. And God said, it's bigger than you. I said, oh. It's like that tiny ship that's in the ocean.
Yeah.
And they got the people on board.
Yeah.
And the waves are tossing to and fro. And people on the board are scared, and they don't know if they're going to drown. And the ship said, I was built for this.
Come on.
Ooh, that's a word. That's a word.
It is. And you made a really good point that it's something that is always with you, but you're coping with it.
Yeah.
So it's not going to disappear because this happened. It's your experience, a very traumatic experience, but you're coping with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And back to your question or your point is that by me helping others to get through what they're going through, because people out here are hurting.
Yeah.
And not to be so judgmental, and to show forth love, and to give. Like I was telling Malika, that wherever I am, I bless people.
He does. I'll speak for him since
Yeah.
he's having a moment. But everywhere he goes, he's blessing people. Either it's a large tip. So we all just went to Miguel Wilson's Polo and Fashion Weekend. Our whole little D.C. National Harbor crew, we were all down there. And the hotel room, everybody knows he likes the best. He has the governor's suite. He hits the lottery tickets and leaves it as the tip.
Wow.
He does stuff like that.
Wow.
All the time.
Wow.
All the time. But then when you see how he gets blessed, and people just watch him because they're like, okay, he's different. You know what I mean? He's doing something different. How does he keep getting these big blessings and big blessings? Because I remember, and we talked about this, one thing about my grandmother, Reverend Hattie Jackson, she preached this sermon, I think I was only 24, 25, and she was saying, God will always replace your stolen years. Always. And that doesn't necessarily have to be time. It can be anything that was taken from you that you didn't get, that you were supposed to get, whatever. And the huge blessings that come his way are, when you just watch, you're like, what?
Yeah.
But it's because he understands now that overflow is, blessings are energy.
Yeah.
And when you're always giving out, how do they say those open hands that you give with are the ones that you get blessed in?
And the closed ones can't get nothing.
Can't get nothing.
Yeah.
So he's just, and you meet people who get it. And they understand that giving, when I started giving at overflow is when I really started making money in my business. So it's just a wavelength that he's on, and nobody can stop him. Nobody can tell him, don't give this person, don't give that. He's going to
Yeah, he's like, it's in him. It's just in him.
Yeah. Even people that try to use me, and I told her. Even a guy that I was in a partnership with, and right after the tragedy happened, they were in real estate for a while, and then their business crashed, and we met at another business. And at the end, he called me, and I said, you know what? The Lord told me to help you. I said, I'm going to flip a house. I said, you know the business. I got the resources. Let's do it. And I'm going to help you get back on your feet. And I went to help him, and I flipped. But the contractor, I didn't know this contractor he know this contractor for 20 plus years. I didn't know the contractor. And the contractor came back and told me everything that this dude was trying to do to get over me.
Wow.
Fake invoices, this, and everything. And and every time I give the contractor some draw checks, $15,000, he would go to the contractor and ask for 10%. And the contractor asked me, and now that makes it seem like I'm in cahoots with him.
Right.
And I was like, no. And he told the guy, he was like, look, you think he's green, talking about me, but he knows he's street smart, he's business smart, and he's a spiritual person. You think you're getting over him, but you're not.
You're really not.
But he didn't know the conversation that the contractor and I had.
Right.
I didn't know this contractor. This is his contractor of 20 years.
And he came back and told you.
I'm telling you how God works.
Right.
God allowed him to come and tell me these things. So at the end, when I flipped, I was in Georgia again for another thing with Jay Morris and all of them. I was down there because I was part of the Tulsa Real Estate Fund thing. And we were all down there for 5 days. And I had to do this house like ASAP. It was going to foreclosure. The people called me. They was like, we got to do it right away. It's going to foreclosure. I said, all right, I'm here. It was with the hotel I was in had a FedEx. So I went down and FedEx did the paperwork. They said, okay, we good. Everything's good. She said, but the lady's not moving out. This was a cat infested house. It's a elderly lady. I said, don't you put that lady out.
Wow. Whew. Thank you. I just have to thank you. I guess I keep
right.
saying thank you because
Thank
it's
you,
like
thank you. Yeah.
you don't even understand what you are telling somebody else.
Right.
Who is listening, who needed to hear it. You just don't know your reach and like how it may come across to someone else. But I did, while you were talking, I did think of something, and I wanted to hear from both of you guys, right? Because we talked about coping mechanisms, and you said finding one that works for you. And I have been in situations where people have have went through things, and me as their partner or being in a relationship with them, they has used me as the coping mechanism. But I heard you say therapy. And so just the importance of, you know, being validated by your partner, of course, your partner being there for you, but not using them as your coping mechanism. Can you guys talk like more about that?
Sure. Well, you mentioned therapy. I'm a huge fan of therapy because you get so many tools, so many powerful tools that you can use to not make the mistakes like what you were talking about. Because when it comes down to it, we have to be happy within ourselves.
Yes.
Right.
And it's not always easy. And that's one thing he's big on is joy in spite of, you know. And I do see that, though, where some couples or whatever the relationship may be, they look to the other person like, oh, they're supposed to make me happy. But it's not like that.
Right.
That's something you have to find internally.
So true.
Because if you don't, then it comes off on the people, you know, around you. But yeah, I'm a huge proponent of therapy. No matter how old you are, no matter male, female, no matter what race, whatever. I get on the phone with my therapist, and it is because I have the right therapist. It's a grand time.
Yeah.
And I've learned some serious tools. And like one day, just to give you an example, she said, "I need you to watch the relationship between your ears and your shoulders." And I was like,
How do I do that?
I had to ponder, you know. I was like, oh, and so since she told me that, I always make sure I'm relaxing that area because we all keep stress in that area and we don't know we do. You know, I heard an exhale. This is what we're talking about. Yes, you know. So it's stuff like that you know we get from those tools in therapy. And even my grown sons, I'm trying to get them to be more serious about it. They're 25 and 30 now, and we all need it.
Right, absolutely.
We all need. I mean, hopefully you haven't been through something that drives you there, but if you live this experience called life, your dash is going to present you with something.
Come on.
Absolutely.
You know, and we're not going to sit here in front like we all in this room have not been through something.
Everyone
you know?
has. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
life ain't gravy for everyone. We're grateful for every day. We expect the best out of every day.
Right.
You know, we keep joy every day, but things happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and when they do, we have to get help, or like they say, hurt people, and then you're just out there hurting other people, which is how some of this, I want to circle back to the reason we're here, because I don't want to short this, which is how this domestic violence comes up. Whether it's, mercy. Should that be a cut?
Wait.
It's back there.
That was like the podcast with the girl wig fell out.
I still think she did that on purpose.
She was talking about something, but as she was talking, it was like
hilarious.
slipping back, and then it fell completely off.
Yes, that was one of those videos. The more you watch it, the
haven't seen
funnier.
it.
Oh my God!
It
It got so funny. What was I saying, y'all? I forgot. What was I saying?
Hurt people, and domestic violence.
Yes. Okay, so we were talking about domestic violence, and I'm glad that there's more focus on not only intimate partner domestic violence, but also non-intimate, domestic violence amongst family members, because we've all seen it. Unfortunately, James experienced it. Unfortunately, it was in my own family. I mean, you all know I try to stay in the background because, I'm here more for him and I'm helping to manage his career, but it happened in my family too, with my son. And it's scary when you think of how quickly something can happen, and for my son to be, unbeknownst to me, to be a victim of domestic violence, and men don't want to talk about these things, and it can creep up on you so quickly, and next thing you know, you're part of this fraternity or sorority, where you've had these things happen, and therapy, help. I mean, there's so many things that we can do to minimize this, and I don't know if this is still post-COVID stress. I don't know what it is, but it just seems like the rates of all
intense,
types,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, he was at Westmore's birthday party last night, and I wish I could have been there, but my mom just had surgery. But anyway, he was talking about how finally these crime rates are reducing.
Yeah.
Finally, and it's because of what you two are doing, getting the word out there, and because of like the press conference that we were at the other day, Madam Brayboy, creating institutions like that, because I've dealt with mental health in my family. I have quite a few family members that we've had to put in extended stay, I was going to say longer care, but extended stay facilities. It never dawned on me that we didn't have one here in PG.
Right. There isn't
it didn't. I mean, it just didn't, because, and I worked in the hospital system for 10 years before I started doing real estate.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the, behavioral health wards, but it just never dawned on me that there was not an extended stay.
Yeah, and she made a good point. The state's attorney is that they got rid of St. Elizabeth, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't a need to have something like that
and
in our
area. And it was a huge campus.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was huge.
natives. I'm sure there's some other natives in here.
Yeah.
We remember how large that was.
Huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
And I remember
Yeah.
there was a time when I was thinking, wow, the need is this much. Well, this
Yeah,
place is
and
this
it still
big.
is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's beautiful
it
real
still
estate
is.
now. But
Yeah.
so then what about all the people who were getting service there?
There you go.
You know, what's happening?
Right.
And it's so
Exactly.
needed, and it's so much more common than people think.
Right.
But then when you've been affected and I've been affected, and you know, when this hits your door, where one day you're just having your normal life just like you,
And then
just like me, I'm just
just
having
like
my
that.
normal life, just flipping my houses. My sons are DJs. They were just having their life. They were on their way to Six Flags.
Yeah.
That's what they were about to do. They were on their way to Six Flags because it was their aunt's birthday, and they were going to go to their aunt's birthday party and have a good time. And my older son, the 30-year-old, he was going to pick up my other son. He's 25 now. And then when the oldest one pulls up to the house, my son's girlfriend calls my younger son, and she literally says, "It's a bunch of feds outside your house. What's going on?" Of course, my son never responds. So my son and his girlfriend actually rolled up on this. They planned to get together at a certain time, and this shooting just happened to happen right before they were getting ready to go. So, you know, it's just so many
Wow.
reasons why we need a lot of help.
A lot
Yes.
of help.
And we need to examine how social media is playing in these interfamily relationships. We need to look at access to, like, when my sons were younger, they were not allowed to play with guns.
Right.
They didn't see gun. Now I was raised in a community where they taught us about safety. You know, I was, thank God, raised by the good old Black Panther Party. So when I was 7, I was in a field, you know, learning how to shoot.
Learning how to shoot,
in
yeah.
terms of just playing with guns and stuff, I didn't allow my sons to just frivolously not respect the weapon. When they got older, I took them to their baba's, and they took care of that. You know what I mean? But so there needs to be. I just think that we need to look at these cartoons, that
More
the violence,
education,
yes, the
yeah.
violence in the
A lot of
cartoons, the violence in the music.
So
Even
true.
when my children were younger, I would tell them, okay, you're in leadership in music, and you have to make a choice. How are you going to lead these people? What kind of music are you going to play? Even when they were
Right.
playing, when my basement became the club, you got DJs for kids that happen,
Right.
you know.
Right.
To the point sometimes where I would step down like 2 steps, and I would have to do like this, 'cause I
Right,
couldn't
see
even
what's
see
going
in
on.
my basement.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember one time I was down there, and all I saw was a white ball going across the ceiling. And I asked one of the kids, "What is that?" And they said, "Oh, it's Anthony." They were crowd surfing down there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
In your
Yeah, that was
basement.
in my basement.
That was
Yeah.
a real party. He was able to
that-
crowd
yeah,
surf.
yeah. And he's
Wow.
big. His name is Big Ant. He's like 6'4" in high school now.
And he was crowd surfing?
The biggest guy in there. All I see was a white ball going across the ceiling. But anyway, that's what we were talking about. I just think this is, very, very important. And like I was saying, that the music is drummed into our children's brains. And I think we need to really look at how that is impacting the relationships with their siblings, with their parents, in their intimate relationships.
Absolutely.
Because
Yes.
like I was saying with my sons, I asked them, how are you going to lead these people if you're the one bringing the music to them? And I
Right.
didn't allow a lot of that negative music in my home. And so it starts at home with a lot of these
Absolutely.
situations. And unfortunately, there's a
Yes.
lot of toxicity in some of these homes. There's a lot of instability in some of these homes. And,
Yeah.
and you're functioning in that, not knowing that it's toxic,
is
and,
toxic.
and dysfunctional.
Yeah.
But programs like what you're getting the word out and what they're doing here at MetaWorks, it every little bit helps.
Absolutely.
And we have
Little
to
bit
support these
helps.
organizations, which is why we're at the press conference the other day.
And thank you
Yes.
both for
Yes.
that. I had
Yes.
a quick. Go ahead. You can go ahead.
This is Matthew, because when it happened, I said, God, what dispensation, what manifestation, where are we right now within the biblical world? Because God created the Revelations first, and then He went back and created Genesis. So we went from the back to the forward. Now we moving back to Revelations.
Yeah.
Matthew 10:28, He said, "For it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father, which speaketh in you. And the brother shall deliver up the brother to death, and the father the child, and the child shall rise up against their parents, and cause them to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth to the end shall be saved." So this
Wow.
scripture has been written thousands and thousands and thousands of years before we even got to this place. So my son put his brother to death, and he put his mother to death, which is a parent.
Yeah.
So this was already
It
written.
was written.
So this is where we are
Right.
in the dispensation. And the other scripture says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, that this is acceptable. Their guidance and is discipline as if representatives, for this is right. For obedience teaches wisdom and self-discipline. Honor, esteem, value as precious your father and your mother, and be respectful to them. This is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may be well with you, and that you may have a long life on the earth. Fathers, do not provoke," and I'm going to add mothers, "your children to anger. Do not exasperate them to the point of resentment with demands that are trivial or unreasonable or humiliating or abusive, nor by showing favoritism or indifference to any of them, but bring them up tenderly with loving kindness and the discipline and the instructions of the Lord.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
And
Yes.
it's a perfect segue to that. I was going to ask you kind of about discipline with your son, and you mentioned checking his phone. Is that something you recommend for parents to do, even if the kid is presenting in a certain way? Do you recommend that parents of teenagers or middle school age kids check the phone?
Yes, and here's another thing, and I'm glad you asked that point. Ask a question. So we talk about discipline, and sometimes people say, "Well, in the Bible it says, spare the rod, spare the child."
Mm-hmm.
So it comes down to now a different generation. Our ancestors were beaten into slavery. They were beaten into doing this and doing that. So what happened was we created that curse upon our own families. So now we want to beat it out of our children.
So true.
So when you beat your children, it creates a psychological thing in their brain to be like, how can this person that I trust and love, who love me, beat me like this? So I never beat my kids. My other two older children, when they were small, I had disciplined them and spanked them at first, and then it hurt my heart. So I stopped. So my wife became the more disciplined. I would be there to monitor to make sure that they wouldn't do anything to buck against her. So my thing is, it has to come down to a point of how do you discipline your children in a generation that is YouTube fed, social media fed, and everything else fed, and going to schools fed about, from their peers. If they do this, I'm gonna kill my mom. I'm gonna kill my dad. They hear this.
Right.
It sinks in their head.
Yeah.
So how do you discipline them now?
Right.
You monitor.
Yeah.
You monitor what they're doing. You take certain things away that they like. What they like, you take it away, and then you have a conversation with them. And my thing also, because I asked God for wisdom and knowledge, just like Solomon in the Bible. Solomon asked God, he said, give me what I need to do to talk to your people. He said, he gave him wisdom. He said, I want wisdom. I need wisdom so I can talk to your people. And God said, because you didn't ask me how to kill the enemy, you didn't ask me for riches, you didn't ask me for this, I'm going to give you the wisdom. And when God gave Solomon the wisdom, God gave him also everything else. Because Solomon was in a fight and God destroyed the enemies. And God blessed him and God filled him with wealth. So we have to ask for wisdom. And what's happening is, as Malika alluded to earlier, hurt people hurt people. So our parents that came up before us was disciplined by being whipped with a rod, a extension cord, and all kinds of stuff.
Tree branch.
Yeah.
Get the
So,
switch.
right, switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what they do when kids grow up, they're gonna
They
do the
same
same
thing.
thing.
So I'm so glad
Yeah.
that you said this because
Yeah.
we put up a post. Yes, we're going to bring the post up again. I know y'all tired of hearing about it. But
Yeah.
this is facts. We put up a post and it was a little girl who was climbing on the couch. She looked like two,
Maybe two.
maybe
two and a half.
two,
Yeah.
maybe 2.5, whatever. And her mom kind of just completely cursed her out. Get your MFing down from that.
A 2-year-old.
Yeah,
Okay,
little
so you had the
toddler.
same response. But the comments of the justifying this behavior, which is literally what you are talking about, is because your parents did it to you, you feel like now that I have kids that this is okay behavior.
Right.
And it's okay,
not.
you guys. It's okay for your parents to be wrong. I want you to know that.
Exactly.
I think that's the
Because
issue.
they didn't know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They didn't know. And that's okay. But justifying the behavior is
Right.
where, we just couldn't understand. You see that it's a
Because
baby.
it's not your norm.
Yeah.
And it's not my norm. And maybe I don't know whose norm it is, but and I've read posts like that. I'm like, how is it that people can justify this? Because I've never been talked to like that by my parents. And I
Yeah.
would never talk to my
In their
parents that way.
minds, those that have been, they say to themselves, well, that turned out fine. And I'm
And
like,
it's like,
have
but you
you?
didn't.
Are you fine?
Because you're in the comments justifying it, so you're
Right.
not okay.
You're not fine. Yeah. So,
Because
Yeah.
I guarantee if they go sit down with a therapist, where we at Metalworks, come
yeah.
sit,
Yeah.
and with a therapist, I guarantee you, they realize, oh wow, I'm not. Because when I would yell at my 5-year-old daughter when I'm so frustrated, and I look at her little big eyes, I was like, oh my God, I can't talk to my baby like that.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
This is my daughter. This is a little girl. I can't talk to her.
And she
Right.
only been
Got
here
these
for 5
beautiful
years.
little-
She only been here for 5 years.
She's
She
so
don't
smart,
know.
She's learning.
so intelligent.
Yeah.
She's learning.
You know, and they hyperactive. You know,
Right.
and
They're kids.
they kids. You know, just
They're
because we
babies still.
old, yeah,
Right.
because we old enough, we
It's
can't.
higher.
You know,
Right.
We have to learn to de-stress
Yeah.
Yeah.
ourselves to
Yes.
be in their presence.
So
You know,
true.
because they're in our presence as an adult, but we're in their presence as well as a kid.
So
So
true.
we're in each other's presence. So we
Right.
have to learn as the adult how to love our young children.
That's
And now when you have young adult children, how do I deal with these young adult children? So now,
That's
you
a
know, for
journey.
me, I show tough
It
love.
is.
You know, I show tough love. You know, and that tough love is I'm not gonna give you everything because you felt like you was entitled before. Now you gotta get out here and earn it.
Right.
I'm gonna be here. You got a house to come to. You got this and that, but you're not getting every. I gave one of my sons. I sold him. I was selling one. I got 2 person, and I was great. I had 4 cars, and I was sell the Lincoln KMZ that I had. And he told her a car, and he just had a kid, and she was in Hagerstown, and I was gonna sell it for a certain amount, and I said, okay, I'll sell it to you for half. I want you to see your daughter. Told her the car in 2 weeks. I just had to go to court for him yesterday because his grandma's going, but I needed grandmother to watch my daughter, so I can go
So
to
you can go to Hagerstown.
to go to Governor Westmore's birthday.
Yeah.
So then I had to drive him to PA
Yeah.
and drive him and come back and then go to Baltimore. But here's the thing, you know, and I've had so many conversations. So it's like now you're bringing this on
It's impacting your life.
Impacting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
after I had a conversation with you because you don't believe reality is real. So now I just have to show tough love.
That's it.
You know?
And I've said to a couple of young people, I know they're living in a false reality.
Yeah, they
do.
Right?
I like that.
Definitely.
Yeah, because everything that a lot of us in a particular generation, a lot that we've had to really work for it. It wasn't given to us.
So true.
And young doing that kind of stuff. I mean,
Right.
we were
Yeah.
hustling, but
Come
sorry.
on, had my license at 15 and
15
9
and
months.
15
I want to
and
drive.
9
These kids are not driving these days.
Everybody
Right,
was 15 and we got it on the day that we
Dang,
turned
right
15
there,
and
right,
9 months.
Literally.
right in the
Yeah.
place, ready
Yeah.
to go.
Well, we didn't have Uber and we didn't have all these other
Right.
metro stations
Yeah.
that they have now.
Right.
So, anyway.
So true.
my
So
license.
true.
I wanted to ask, how did this affect? Obviously, it's a difficult question, but obviously it affects the other kids. But if you're okay with speaking about how it affect the siblings,
So my oldest son, who's not her biological, but my son, he took it hard because he didn't really grow up with them like he wanted to. And then when they start getting older, they would start gelling, and he was like, "What more could he have done?" So he feels a sense of guilt on his own.
Wow.
But his biological brothers, they've disowned him. My stepbrothers and my other brothers, because there's 13 of us, they wanted his head. They wanted to remove him from this earth. To be honest, especially he did some hurt me as well.
Yeah.
I have a very protective family and friends. Like if you do something to me, they're coming for you. That's why I don't like, that's why I ask God to do it, because I don't want anybody to go to jail for me.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So that's why I ask God, and I allow God to deal with my enemies or whatever.
Yeah.
But his and my daughter, she still, think he's in the hospital and need help.
Okay.
But his brothers his older brothers, they disown him. One of them just, I don't know what would happen if they came face to face. I don't think he would probably survive.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
So-
it hasn't been that long. I mean, it's been
No,
a
2022.
right? So
been 2
it's
years,
still
about 2.5
very
years.
recent.
Recent.
And
Very
I didn't
recent
know it
still.
was
Yeah.
that recent.
Yeah.
January 6th,
recent.
2020.
2022.
So I tell him, I said, let God deal with him.
Yeah,
He hasn't been. Oh, so here's another thing. Very important. So when he was in Cheltenham, he fell out, and they called me because he was still underage, and they took him to Georgetown, and they did scans on his brain. Found out he had lesions all on the brain
wow.
Wow.
and some rare form of MS that was developing, and they had to give him this medication. It cost me. They sent me a bill for $75,000. Thank God for TRICARE.
Yeah,
Thank God for serving in the military.
Yeah.
But yet I still had to explain to them that he wasn't beaten and all that. It was, because they want to know what happened, all that. I said, no, he had a medical. So some of these kids out, and I could have came from vaping. It could have came from a number of things that have done. So a lot of these kids out here that have some of these offsets when they do drugs or whatever,
yeah,
I think that one day, and it's intrusive, but I don't know. It's going to come down to they have to do a medical scan of the brain.
A lot of these young people
To find
To
out what's
really
going
see
on.
what's going
We talked
on.
about that at the press conference. They were saying that a lot of these young people, we got to get the therapy, yes, but a lot of people in general, I'm not just going to put on the young people, a lot of people in general need that good brain scan.
Yeah.
Because there's some real things
Serious
They
going
do it
on.
for football
going on
players
for
and all
real.
them, and wrestlers and all them.
And that's a
Yeah.
concern, but like both of my sons were football players, and we see what's happening with CTE. We didn't even know what CTE was years ago. So
Right.
what else may we see
Yeah,
down the
down the
line?
road,
But
right.
especially from like the weed the kids are smoking now. Okay,
It's not the same.
It's
It's
not.
not the same.
It's not.
We didn't have a fume.
Right.
We had it smell like smoke.
Yeah,
These
yeah.
kids got a fume on
Yeah,
it, which
it's
tells me that this is a chemical. And I really
Yes.
believe it's a chemical that between the dopamine ups and downs with the social media and the chemicals in the weed, I really think it's part of why we see these domestic violence issues sometimes, or just all the shooting in the street. I mean,
Right.
just,
Yeah.
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 And up and down relationships, and up and down in the relationships that they in, whether it's boy girl, same sex, all this traumatic issues that they have in their relationships. That's just tearing them apart. Then they go home, they don't know who to talk to, especially if they're in a same sex marriage. They go home, their parents might not be with that, so they got to go to this community.
It's a lot
They
going
so
on.
lost
and
right
then
now.
the
Yes,
phone
it's so
too,
much.
right?
Social
So they've lost
media.
their social skills.
They don't have
interactions.
any
They
social
don't have no
skills.
interact any-
Yeah.
any-
Yeah.
anymore.
Right.
But
it's kind of sad to see.
It really is to see. I'm not
Just such
sure
a
how this
decline.
generation is going to be when they get
know.
adults. Sometimes, I struggle with being an adult.
You
I
doing-
have
At my big age,
You know
I
what
do
I mean?
too.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
But
level
it's
of
like
balance.
this generation, y'all, I'm
Yeah.
so concerned because it's
Yeah.
like so far behind. They took a lot of stuff out of school too.
Yeah.
You know
Right.
what I mean? Where it's kind of like they set them behind
Yeah.
also. So
And then
it's like,
COVID, too.
yeah, and
So
then COVID on
lost
top of
That was
that.
her,
So
yeah.
I see a
it's-
difference between my millennial son and my Gen X son.
Okay.
I see a big
What are the ages of those two for people who don't
25 and 30.
know? Okay.
And I see a difference. So it just worries me a bit.
But you go back to Woodstock.
My
Where
mom
people,
was at Woodstock, by the
where
way.
people was living the little normal life, and then Woodstock, and then there was the
Yeah.
free peace and free spirit.
What happened to all of
you know.
that?
Right.
But,
I'm always like,
but
I
a
was
lot of
born in the
people was
wrong
against
era.
that though.
Yeah.
But a
Yeah.
lot of people
Yeah.
was against that. They was like, they wild, they losing
Right,
their mind, they
right.
tripping.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They
Yeah.
was smoking LSD and all kinds of stuff, so they was
Yeah,
tripping.
yeah.
So each generation has
Has
some
Their
Damn.
thing, right?
their
true.
thing.
Yeah.
So
you know,
true.
So I
and
don't want to look down on these young people because they're some of the first people to put their foot down about a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now that's what I can say. They
Yeah.
stand
They
strong,
stand
10
strong.
toes deep,
10 toes
or
down.
whatever they believe.
Right. The issue I see though is that sometimes as they stand their ground, the boundary of respect is crossed. That's where I'm seeing the problem. Like you can express yourself because you may see things that we don't see now. Because
Right.
I'm about to be 48 next month.
Wow.
So I
You look
keep people
great.
around. Thank
Yes.
Yeah. Black don't
Look, I
cry.
haven't even covered my grass
Yeah,
yet.
girl, you look good. Don't cover them grapes.
No, look,
She said, no, I'm
November
gonna
3rd,
cover
the
these
appointment is already
It's
done.
already set.
Already done. I've been asking for a minute. I'm like, sis, But I really do see. I see a difference, and I think through. They're very bold. They're a very bold generation.
Yes.
But I think once the respect thing is in check, because when they'll learn that once they show the respect, the doors will open more.
Yes.
Because sometimes they say and do things that we would never. You know what I mean? And that unfortunately that snaps back on you eventually. So once they get that part together, and they are trailblazing, and I'm really proud of.
I am too.
Yeah, the
I am
generation.
too. And I agree
Absolutely.
with what you said.
Yeah.
Like as far as because I see both dynamics. I do see some that's kind of lost, but then I see those who are actually becoming like millionaires.
Yeah,
Like they
quickly,
getting money. They
digitally.
want to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
They are taking this thing by storm. They going after whatever they want. They don't want to work for nobody but themselves, and they're really doing great because they know how to work social media. They know what it takes. You know. So definitely proud of you guys. I think respect goes a long way, like you said. Though I do think you can be knowledgeable, you can have the tools, but the minute that you are disrespectful, it doesn't matter. It no longer
Yeah.
matters.
And because we have such a high, because we would never, I think our expectation is at a certain level, and once you break that,
Yeah.
All bets are
That's
off,
it.
as they
Yeah.
say. Huh?
Yeah.
But the reason why, because they buck authority. They don't want authority.
Yeah.
When you come at kids in an authoritative way, that's when they buck it.
Yeah.
They want you to come to them in a human being.
Yes.
I'm a human.
Yeah.
I know you're the parent. I'm the child. But come to me with a level of respect that I can understand and not be so authoritative, because I go to school, there's authorities there. There's authorities in the police office. There's authority everywhere. So when they get that little freedom and they around their friends, they get to
lose
it.
it.
Especially when they hit 14, 15, that age, you can't tell them anything. Now they want to buck you.
Yeah.
Now they want to try you.
Yeah.
And they lose that level of respect until they get to another certain realm in their age,
Where you
20,
start apologizing.
30.
We all did it.
You know?
Yeah,
My
it's so
bad,
true.
Mom.
So
My bad
they
now,
they
my
get an
bad.
understanding of
Yeah.
what
Right.
respect means and why I was trying to shield you from certain things, and yet we have to learn how to communicate.
That is the truth. So I'm a licensed therapist. A lot of my work has been with children and families and trying to bridge that gap with parents who have kids who are in middle school, high school. You can't come at them with the authoritative vibe. They're going to push back. So the collaborative approach is best. It's not 100% because there's some, outliers and other circumstances, maybe a medical issue that
Right.
could impact someone's behavior. But most times, if you come to them in a way that is respectful, your child, just be collaborative, work with them. Don't come at them
Right.
because it just breeds more aggression.
So true.
I mean, it's not helpful.
So true. So I have a question. How can communities work together to prevent family violence?
Yes, what can we all do?
The way the community can come together to prevent family violence is stop staying in your own community. You have to go out into the other communities to see what's going on.
Wow.
Because when you isolate yourself, you don't know what's going on in any other community. Or you look at it like, look what's going on over such
there.
Look what's going on over there. But what's going on in your house? Like in my house, everybody wondering, well, what's going on? How did a child come from a good home and do that? Because everybody started having all these things. Well, were they beating them? What was it? No.
Yeah.
We just had a child that just became misguided by the community, the environment that he went to. So we have to stop being so taboo and start, because when they have those apps now, my neighborhood community apps, and things of that nature, Next Door and all these apps, well, we need to, what's happening in your community? Let's have a community day of this neighborhood, that neighborhood, wherever. DC, Maryland, let's go to the stadium. Let's have a big fun day and talk and be real. But we cannot keep hiding, because that's where the enemy lies, within hidden things that are hidden. But when the thing, what's true in the dark will come to the light. What's true in the natural will come to the spirit. Nothing in the dark will always stay hidden, because we see it now. Everything is getting exposed with our entertainers, with everything that they've been doing in these communities, these environments. It's all getting exposed.
It sure is.
So we need to, we should be a staunch proponent of standing your own ground and speaking up your own values and speaking. Because if each of us start doing that, because we don't feel like we want to ruffle somebody's feathers.
Right.
Well, I don't want to ruffle that.
Or mind my own business. Let me let them.
that whole
Because
don't say
it's going to
nothing.
become
Yeah.
your business.
Yeah.
Because
right.
when they say, if I don't lock up this criminal right here, he's going to be the same one coming to your door.
Yep.
He's going to be the same one carjacking.
So true.
I remember watching Spider-Man. And what's the little kid name? Peter, what's it? Spider-Man character? Peter Parker. Peter Parker. Peter Parker was at the deli, and he got on the elevator, and the burglar, the robber, just robbed the people, and he was trying to get on. And he was Spider-Man at the time, but he didn't do anything. And then the robber ran down the street, and when he went out the building, he killed Peter Parker's aunt.
Right. Yeah.
He killed him.
Yeah.
But at that moment, there was something
did.
he could have did, and he didn't. He minded his business, even though he was Spider-Man. He could have stopped this criminal, and he didn't, and this criminal killed his aunt, and it came to his own doorstep. So there's things that we can see. You don't have to, people snitchers and snitches and all this stuff. Call anonymous.
Yeah.
Say, hey, this is what I see. Can you just send somebody through? Break it up. Because if you don't break it up, it's going to manifest. I was in these streets of D.C. I've seen how quiet neighborhoods turn into drug dealer neighborhoods with violence. And then what happened? They had started sending out the orange hats and these people to patrol the streets. Right. So and they had those community things, and then they became regentrification. And then some neighborhoods was like, well, they ain't in my neighborhood no more.
It's not my problem.
Yeah,
It's not my problem anymore.
Yeah.
So we have to speak up. We have to come together. We have to do more of these podcasts. Talk about the mental illness. Put with Metalworks. Put that information out there. So you got a safe space to come and talk to somebody. Because in this here, y'all have a lot of outlets.
Yes.
You have a lot of outlets to a lot of people. It's a safe space to come and talk.
Absolutely.
Is it in your neighborhood? Can we come to your neighborhood?
Right.
Because I remember in my neighborhood, when we was growing up, we used to have block parties.
Right.
I remember
Shut
block
the-
parties.
Shut the thing down. Have
Yes.
block
You
parties.
forget
Yeah.
about these
I
things.
know.
Regentrification.
Yeah.
Parties used to
Yes.
be-
Regentrification came
Yeah.
in, and these folks said, no, they don't want this because
Not
now
on my block.
Right, not on my
not on my block, and they start pushing us out of the
Yeah.
community,
Right.
and we don't have that anymore.
Right.
That's so true.
So,
Well,
so I am my brother's keeper is what I hear
Right.
you saying.
Scripture,
Right.
yes.
We gotta
I
look out
love
for each
it.
other.
And my brother's keeper.
Yeah.
You have something?
Well, what was on my heart was that when you were saying, well, when it comes to removing the stigma about getting help and things like that, and that's for what this is all about, the whole domestic violence piece, because people are going through that and not speaking about it. People need therapy and are not asking for it. So if we can just let people know that there is a safe space. You do have a safe person. What was it, 801? What was the new number?
988.
Okay, the new
988.
domestic violence number. Be open to using those numbers. Don't be afraid to call those numbers. Ask somebody, talk to somebody, because there's always somebody that's going to be able to help. And I think if we can just be comfortable just taking that little step outside the
Right.
box, once that opens up for you, it's a different world.
There. And
So
more people
true.
are going through the same thing than what we
Than we
realize
think.
because nobody's
Right.
saying anything.
Right,
But the
right,
more that we
right.
speak about it, the more people
people know.
prayerfully will be comfortable
Yeah.
just letting us know, what it is and how we can help.
So true. And if we could just put the domestic violence number under what she just said when we post this, that would be awesome. Because we don't know the number offhand, but we want to provide the
actually-
correct number on the screen.
I have 1-800 Maryland Helps is one. You guys can add that as well.
Okay.
Y'all number as well?
Absolutely.
Y'all information, y'all website?
Yeah.
Our information will be somewhere on this, you
Yeah.
guys.
Absolutely.
They're going to put it on there for us. You guys can always contact Metalworks. Of course, we do individual, family. We do anger management groups. We do survivors groups. We have 30 groups that happen in person and virtually each week, actually. And so we have a wealth of resources. If we can't do it, we're going to connect you with someone that we trust that can help you. So do use us as a resource.
Awesome. So, first of all, thank you guys for being here.
Thank
you
y'all
You
so
made it
much.
so easy to talk
Yes,
to.
and we didn't get to half of our questions. We
had
did 2 hours.
We had a pass lead. We
Yes.
didn't do
Wait, hold on. Let me
Oh,
make
oh,
sure.
oh,
Let me make sure. Wait here. Hold on.
We was waiting for questions. I'm sorry.
How can you work? We asked that.
No,
Hold on.
it was just flowing. It was
Yeah,
so
it was.
natural. The
It
last thing I want to
was.
do is break up something that's so natural to just stop and ask all these, questions.
Yeah.
It just kind of came to me
did.
and Christine to
Yeah.
just ask you whatever came to our mind.
Is there something on there, though?
I'm scanning.
Oh, she's scanning. She's scanning.
I was thinking that. I'm like, oh my God, what about their
We did ask
it
some
was
of them,
really
just not like
good.
all of them.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about.
I mean, we're
Read.
willing
I
to
was
come
about to
back.
say the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This was
Yeah.
great. Okay, I think one thing.
Okay.
Like signs that people can look out for in the community. Like if someone sees something, should they say something? Or if someone's struggling, like what are some signs that maybe your friends and family didn't notice or did notice? What are some things that we could look out for? Maybe they don't want to say anything about what's going on, but what can we look out for?
And see, that's what I go back to when I told my wife when I started looking at the continents on our son, our 15-year-old son at the time. I said, I see a change.
Yeah.
I said, he don't look the same. I said, he looks dangerous. I don't trust him anymore. And that's what I told her. Mm-hmm. I told her that. So when you start seeing your child or your loved one, anyone, going from either a happy, energetic, go-lucky, happy, fun, to isolating, down, looking, I'm okay, looking depressed or scared, or start becoming, or you hear, oh, such just did this person, he beat this person, oh, they running with these people.
Yeah.
When you start seeing these things, or they coming in late, or they start changing their clothes, or what they're wearing,
So
they get
change in mood and behavior.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
tattoos, or ear. I mean, I don't have any tats. I'm not against anybody who have tats,
Right.
but yet, what kind of tats are they getting?
Right.
What are they putting on there?
do
They
they
putting
represent?
skeletons,
Yeah.
bones. What do they represent? So start looking at some of these things that where they were normal, or made seem normal or okay. Now something is not right.
There's a shift.
Look at the shift and the change.
And don't ignore what you're seeing, because as
It's real.
parents,
'Cause it's
we
your
can-
baby, right?
It's our baby. Those are our babies, and we'll see it. And if we would have seen that on someone else, we would have been quick to
Right.
you know,
Right.
call
So
911,
true.
get
Look
help.
right. Yeah,
Yep,
but
you see
ours
it in
is
your own
different.
children. One of my godmothers told that. She said, "You ask for a sign from God, don't ignore it."
That is
You know?
true.
Such a signful person.
Yeah.
I tell her all the time. I say, God, show me signs and wonders, and I see things all the time. I have dreams and I have visions. But that's it. When you see a certain sign, I mean, we can be driving down the street and it had no stop sign, and we was going, but because there were so many accidents in that cross section,
Yeah.
they say, well, we need to put up a
Put
stop
some
sign
signs.
to stop this from happening. So if the people to be can see things like that, we are the people to be
Yeah.
without humankind. If we see somebody who was doing such wonderful, and then all of a sudden they stop and they put a stop, and now you got to put a stop sign up there to stop them from running off the cliff and going further into destructive behavior ways.
Absolutely.
I love that. If
Thank
it
you.
was one thing that like you want the audience to know, like to take away from this, just one brief thing that you want people to take away from this interview with you guys, what is it?
That men are victims of domestic violence too.
Yes.
That we're all victims of all kinds of violence, whether verbal, domestic, abusive, drug, alcoholism. We're all in this together, and we need to help each other and stop shying away from it and running away from it. Find out why that person is drinking so much. Find out why that person became so promiscuous. Find out why that person is out carjacking, robbing, stealing. We need to stop turning a blind eye to what's really happened in reality, because the next thing you know, it's going to show up at your door. And on top of that, we need to start loving each other and respecting each other and caring for each other.
Thank you for that,
Thank
both
y'all.
of you
Thank you
guys.
both.
All right, we like to end with the wellness.
Yes.
So I think ours is emotional.
We're going to do
You can take it
emotional
away,
wellness.
Christine.
So
Yes.
Metalworks works around the 8 aspects of wellness. So this week, I think we'd like you guys to work on your emotional wellness, as we felt this was a pretty emotional podcast. And just do something for yourself. Write in your journal. Maybe contact a therapist, research therapy. There's several things you do. Call a friend, someone you haven't talked to, something that's going to fill your emotional cup, and let us know what you did.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning into Elevation Podcast. We had a great time here
Thank
with
y'all.
our special
Cheers
guest.
to our first guest.
Thank you.
You guys did great.
It was
Thank
an
you.
honor. And
Yes, and
Absolute honor.
thank you. And we expect to see y'all next week too.
Yes.
All right, bye.
Take care.